Thank you. I'm happy to be here and proud to be part of this celebration or memorial event. So thank you for inviting me. We will go some years back in the history to 2004. A large disaster in South Asia. The cause of this disaster was an earthquake that happened here in the Indian Ocean. And part of the sea bottom, the seabed, fell down. And then water flowed from all parts of the ocean to this epicenter. And it built up a lot of energy then. And then it come back with great power to the coast all around the Indian Sea. It was the second Christmas day, and a lot of families from Europe had their Christmas vacation, especially in Thailand. You can see the reefs. These are normally not seen, but because the water has drawn back, you can see it now. And out in the horizon, you can see the waves coming, and still people are bathing. I've heard that the elephants, also those who were trapped, they broke out and ran into the jungle, and a lot of animals and birds followed them. Animals, and especially elephants, have great memory and reacted of the sound from the waves. A lot of people also got into the inland, but many didn't, and especially tourists, they did not. Here you can see the waves coming. Building up as they come into the grounds. The couple who took this picture from Canada, they were found, both of them died. They died and their camera was found, and this picture was made. The boats here, they are normally not lying on the ground. And here you can see the water coming. Here's another picture. People still bathing. This boat was found 2 kilometers into the country. So it was great power, and much of the land was taken by the boats. And the damage is all up to the second floor here. And see the car. It was about 250,000 people that died, and 1% of them were from Europe. Sweden had a lot of people dying, 600, and Norway we had 84. And our research did with 3,500 Norwegians that were present. I know that the Czech Republic also had some people in this disaster, and that 8 people died, according to Wikipedia. At our center in Oslo, we had a lot of projects starting after the tsunami to cover a broad spectrum of the happening. Professor Lars Weiseth, he was director of all these projects. and I will tell you something about the survivors, the bereaved, and the visit to the disaster area. There are some of the researchers involved, all from our center. And this is our link. You can find some more stuff there. This disaster had all the aspects of minor disaster. What makes people react? That's the life threat, danger to life, danger to own life, witnessing people die and suffering, and the missing of loved ones. And finally, the confirmation of the dead ones. We know that these things makes people react, and we have studied what really happened to them. This is different in this disaster for the tourists than in many other natural disasters that have also had secondary disaster stresses. But our tourists, they went home to a home country that was still functioning. So they didn't lose their home and their properties, didn't lose their livelihood, they could go back to their own work. And they didn't have this uncertainty about the future. And one of our questions, research questions, was, do they have the same reactions as people in other natural disasters? And we found that they had, with maybe 2 exceptions, they had a little less with depression and a little less with alcoholic disorders. Which may be tied more to secondary disaster stressors, maybe. Which symptoms did it get? These are symptoms relative to non-exposed controls or a reference group that were not exposed. Those only visiting, only experienced witnessing stressors, and those who also had danger to life, they get more symptoms, the red ones. The 3 most prevalent groups of symptoms were hyperarousal, or activation of the central nervous system, intrusive memories, and avoidance. And these 3 are the clusters of PTSD. So these are what we expected to find. Also some other symptoms as guilt, somatization, withdrawal, anxiety, depression. The hyperarousal, we were interested in that and found that hyperarousal actually is the symptom that is most bound or most connected to functional impairment. The green one, highest correlation with seeing physical, referral to a specialist, medication, sick leave, other mental health problem, and other things too. So that's a core thing with PTSDs, hyperarousal, sleep disturbances, activating as the disaster still comes, as it could be come to me anywhere at any time. We also looked at the disorders. Which type of disorders did they get? And after 2 years, we have a doctoral Trond Heir, who has did these interviews, clinical interviews of people that were really hard affected at Kaulak, where most of the Norwegian that died, they perished at Kaulak. And you can see that PTSD here is only part of the story. The red is the current prevalence, the green is the part of the prevalence that had onset after the tsunami. So people, they get depressed, some get some kind of mania, panic disorder, agoraphobia, general anxiety disorders, social anxiety, and so on. A really broad spectrum of psychiatric illness. And the prevalence is really high for psychiatric disorders as a whole. So again, these are people that were really hard affected. They all had life threats, for instance. But still, I think it's interesting to know that we shouldn't only look for PTSD symptoms after such a happening. We should ask people for more types of disorders and more kinds of symptoms. Risk for psychological distress in general, life threat, as you see, is core factor, loss of family. These two have a high impact on the health, of course. Witness to death, the same. Children that didn't find their families. Helping others is a risk factor, because when you're not professional, you try to help, but you're really helpless in such a situation. People are dying in your hands, and that's another good experience. To have sole responsibility for children also. Women get PTSD twice as much as men. You have heard that about schizophrenic patients, it's the same here. The numbers over 1 is a risk factor, numbers under 1 is a protective factor. So close one injured is really very protective. And we have asked ourselves why. Could it be that having a loved one that is injured shift the focus from myself and my own complaints to the suffering of somebody else, somebody I really care about, and that my focus is not so interesting anymore. Yeah, I want to tell you something about the importance of memory for PTSD. We always think that memory is an accurate snapshot of the past, but it isn't. Memory is just a reconstruction of the past. So what I do is to construct the past. And I do it every time I got the memory. I use my imagination, what I believe could have happened into it, and then it will be memories of memories of memories. So research nowadays, point out that memory is really changing over time. Today you don't have the same memory about the happening that you had yesterday. And we want to test this out in this population, and we had a really simple question. We asked about the perceived life threat intensity of the event. how great do you think the danger was that you would die? And we just had this scale from none to overwhelming. And how many do you think changed from a low degree to a higher degree? There. Half the population thought it was more dangerous the second time, after 2 years compared to half a year. Very few moved in the opposite direction. So, in general, events can be more dangerous when I think about it tomorrow than it was yesterday. And do you think this has some implications? Well, we looked at the symptoms, the trajectory of symptoms from half year to 2 years. In the group with memory amplification compared to others. And here you see, these are the others. The green one are the others. They improve in their PTSD symptoms from 6 months to 24 months. But the red one, they do not. So maybe the amplification of threat, the belief that this was very, very, very hard for me, maybe that's not so good for the prognosis. We have also divided this sample into 3 according to symptom trajectory. Someone didn't have much symptoms in the start. They also didn't have much symptoms after 24 months. But some of these, with low symptom scores in the start, they rise in their symptom scores after 2 years. And that's an interesting group because they call it late onset PTSD. And in US, that's a special sort of PTSD. And people believe that, okay, I didn't understand what had happened with me. It was so much that bothered me that I couldn't really get the symptoms, or it's a lot of explanation why symptoms are coming at a later stage. We have looked at this group, and if you don't have symptoms in the start, you can compare this one with other people and ask what sort of characteristics do they have. And here's the answer. They are less employed. They do not have jobs in the same degree. They have certain personality characteristics, and they are dissatisfied with the support they have got about the healthcare system and about their family and friends. And one more thing, they are really believing that the happening was very threatening. They are believing that at the second time. They didn't believe that at the first time. I want to tell you something about a special project we had. Lars and me, we went back to Thailand with bereaved and with survivors. That was part of a strategy for helping these people. A lot of bereaved, and most of them went back. They got everything from the authorities. They didn't need to pay anything. themselves. The survivors, they need to pay, but they had some health care professionals with them that were sponsored by the authorities, just for helping them in the situation that that could be difficult. This is from one of the journeys with about 30 adults and 20 children, 10 months post tsunami. This was the multiplies, better understanding and overcome fear. And what we found as a result was that they improved in their anxiety symptoms during this stay. And we found no cases of re-traumatization, which was thought could happen by a lot of our colleagues. But we didn't find it. So we were really proud about this finding because we thought that this could really help people.
What do you mean by exposed? Does it mean that they were there or that they also lost somebody?
No, these were survivors didn't.
And they hadn't lost anybody?
No, not this one. There were certain journeys also for those who had lost, but these were only for survivors with life threat. And what helped? We think that reunion with the local people was important. Coming back and being part of it, being proud of to be a survivor. Reconstruction of the escape route to understand what really happened with me. Get an overview, what did really happen. The same roof as they sat on the disaster day, back to the scene. Bathing again for the first time after the tsunami. After 10 months, this is the first time. All this is part of exposure therapy. Yeah. Exposure therapy, which is used in phobias. It should be used more in PTSD too. Because the avoidance is a very, very core symptom, and it's very hard, and it's part of the complexity that makes PTSD standing over time. If you go into it, you can get some power over the situation instead of the situation that have power over you. And these memorial things, it's also very interesting. People need some sort of memorials. We are not being clever in Norway for this. But then in the tsunami, we adapted some of these skills from other people, making private memorial places. And I know that you are better in these things in the Czech Republic. I've been biking through the country. I have one picture of that. With my family, we biked from Oslo to Rome with 4 children. And in the Czech Republic, we had in the countryside, we saw a lot of these things, flowers and memorials over people that had perished. And I guess this is a traffic accident, motorbike, I think.
Actually, local authorities trying the families to push these memorials away.
Yeah, yeah. Because you have your place, you can go there, and then you have your memory at the place, and you come back and get free of it. And you can go into it and out of it. So
the local authorities actually just hate these symbols.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, they hate it and they're pushing the people to
okay, they should.
Not in Moravia.
here, I guess maybe the little brother has offered one of his bicycles, and here you see the local football team, I guess. I think this is part of overcoming fear, part of overcoming grief. Visiting the death side by this is a brief one. I'm not trying to go into it, but yeah, what was most important for the bereaved was an increased understanding of what had happened and a feeling of closeness to the deceased. That was really important. We had two groups of bereaved actually. Those who stayed at home, just hearing about this, just getting information, and actually knowing nothing because it was so overwhelming, and the authorities didn't really know what had happened. And the other part of this group was bereaved or close ones that were into the disaster themselves. And we really wondered what was the worst thing, to being away or being into it. Another research question was what about this new diagnosis? Prolonged grief disorder is proposed for the new diagnostic systems. Is this appropriate? Is this a good diagnosis? Do people have this after a while? It's not very complicated. It's grief. It's really grief, but it's long-standing. It's not fading away. It's just standing and standing and standing over half a year. It shouldn't be normal. You should go back to your job. You should start to function before that. If you don't, some people say that this is a disorder. It's you can't live a normal life because of the grief. The red one is the directly exposed group, and the green, the people that were home. All these were bereaved. They lost someone. Of course, those directly exposed, they had more PTSD 2 years after. They also had more mild depression, and they had a little more complicated grief. So being into it was first. What we found a high prevalence of psychiatric disorders also in this group, and we know from other research we have done that losing a close one is an experience that makes people sick. And if you get sick, you don't you don't quit it. You have it for 2 to 5 years. The risk for complicated grief, again, being woman 5 times. Loss of a child is really hard. It's the worst you can do in your life is to lose a child. Loss of spouse is also terrible. If confirmation of death is, if it's lasting more than 1 month for confirmation of death, it's not good. It's worse the longer you have to wait. What we also found was previous loss is a protecting factor. And why should it be? Not everybody find this, but in our material it's really clear. Have experience with loss of loved ones before helps you to overcome the new loss. And maybe you have some experience that, well, this will turn into something else. I will overcome it. I have the experience that this will end in a life that I can manage again. So maybe it can help you to have some more hope. We really don't know, but it's really protecting, very clear. Yes, I think I've had my half time.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
I want some questions too.
Well, it was interesting that finding that traumatic memories actually are increasing, because it's not something what we experience in our everyday experience. Usually when you experience something terrible, with the time passing, it's usually decreasing and decreasing.
Mm-hmm.
So you have some explanation for that?
No, it's not the amount of traumatic memories, it's how you think about the event.
Uh-huh.
So how dangerous do I think it was? How do I remember it?
Uh-huh.
And we have been in the court system and heard people telling about their traumatic event, what they have been experiencing, and often people tell another story and other witnesses. If it's very important for you, you can do it. It can go to your head. You can do it more and more dangerous than it was, and this may not be. You are not lying or that things, but it's growing. It's growing, and the things that the phenomenon that things are growing may be bad for your health. You know, people dealing with other things, with pain in the back, for instance, they know it. They know that if the patients are just thinking about the pain in the back, it's not good. You should leave it. You should think about what you can do. What can I manage, and do everything you can, and then it will fade away. If my mind is all about my back, it will not. It will be worse.
Mm-hmm.
So it may be the same sort of phenomenon in psychiatry.
But could it be the other way around?
Yeah.
You said it would be a bad prognosis if you had this tendency to exaggerate the danger.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't it be the other way around, that if you're getting symptoms, you need an explanation for it,
Yeah.
and the real explanation is that it was such a terrible incident?
Yeah. I have to say that the objective experience was not so hard. We have compared this with what actually happened, because we know where people were, how dangerous it was. So and if they lose somebody, if it was other deaths there. So actually they go from low intensity to high intensity in the heads. But of course it could loop both ways, but it could be that it strengthens others. It's like a ping pong effect. So
but if you get a lot of symptoms, you need an explanation for it.
yeah, you do. But why do you get the symptoms?
Yeah.
But we do actually have some Norwegian data on that.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, we studied prospectively people that were injured in car accidents and things like that. And they were tape interviews within 10 to 12 hours following the accident.
Mm-hmm.
And then we followed them for 2 years. And we also asked the same questions. And basically, it's what Astrid said. What we could show was it was actually not the symptoms, actually, it was bad coping. Those who were not able to cope, they started to report more and more symptoms, and then they started subsequently to report that the end had been much worse. That was actually the prospective findings. So you have to keep in mind that you don't have a prospective study. You have a kind of cross-sectional study. Yeah, but after 6 months. So you miss the crucial window, so to say, and that's why it's important also to consider other research that have really looked at that. So I think you are closer to the explanation based on our.
I would be that way.
Okay. So the symptoms could be the first one, and the explanation could be the second one. But it could go both ways.
Sorry.
for me was very interesting, the finding about the high prevalence of other mental disorders after, yeah? Do you have some predictors? What mental disorders the people will suffer? You see quite a high prevalence of high depression and social phobia, whatever.
This is special sample because they were so hard affected, and it was only 60 people in the sample. So sorry, we can't do that. But, my impression is some of the same factors: women more than men, unemployed more than employed, and it's we don't have an explanation why somebody go to one disease, one illness, and others to another.
Did you continue with the finish?
No, we can finish.
It's absolutely.
We could just take this if we want. We wonder if people with PTSD use the healthcare system more than those without. And this is from a Danish study. I think part of it, but it's really a Danish group. And as you see, this no PTSD group is use the healthcare system less than the green one and the red ones. The Danish, they're clever because they had register data on people, every people in the country, how much they use the primary health system. So I think this makes sense. People with diseases, psychiatric disorders, use the healthcare systems more than others, than those who do not get the PTSD. But then we looked at the numbers before the tsunami, and here they are. It's the same pattern. So those who get PTSD, they are using the healthcare system more, also in the front of the happening. And it's another it's no difference between here and here. So we just wonder why this is. I think that some people they have problems with the health, and when they get into a disaster, they get some new things to bother about, but some of them may then shift the focus from pain in the back to PTSD. Satisfaction with social support. These are Denmark, Norway, Sweden, 3 countries. How much did they use close relatives, other victims, local helpers, and the embassy consulate at the site when they're still very tired? And they were evacuated, but before they left, what was important for them? And were they satisfied with these kinds of support? The grey one is satisfied. In all countries, close relatives is important for people. People are satisfied with high satisfaction with their support from close relatives, from others in the situation, from local helpers. What people was not so happy with is the authorities. And actually the authorities and the ambassadors, they didn't, they expected this kind of disaster. And home in Norway, we were relative late, going down, starting helping people. We have now experience how to do this. So in all the Nordic countries, it was a gap between what people expected and what they got. And the same in after coming to home, close relative, crisis support teams, general practitioners, psychiatry, social service. And what did they get? How happy were they? Again, close relatives, people very satisfactory. Not with crisis support teams, not so much with psychiatry and social service. So this is just telling what I think the gap between what people expect and what they get. We can see the same in Norway now, after the 22nd July. People in the department, the government, they are, I think they are more happy with what they got than the youth at Utøya. And one explanation may be not what they really got, maybe that too, but it's possible more about, I think, what they expect and what we give them of expectation.